Welcome to the MSP Corner podcast. Before we kick off our show, we would like to share what our main objective is at the MSP Corner. Our main goal is to help CEOs build profitable and self-sustainable IT service firms. We are not just providing tools for IT firms, we will be sitting in meetings with you to ensure your IT firm stays on track. The first area we are focused on, strategic sales. IT firms are stuck selling technology or IT support. We will provide you with the blueprint so you position your firm as an added value to your prospects. We will have framework on how to sell value so you influence the prospect into selecting your firm. The second area we see many IT firms struggle in is marketing. 90+% of businesses rely on antiquated marketing methods. The most popular choice, word of mouth. We have proven methods on how to attract the ideal prospect. Our framework will include how to become the online authority and be the business influencer for an industry. The third component to our package, scaling. IT firms walk away from opportunities because they lack the bandwidth or skill set to scale. We have lined up reputable businesses so our members can hire on-demand resources that will allow them to scale their business. The fourth area we will offer help in, selecting the right tools. In order to deliver value, you need the right tech stack. Our platform will offer information on products that are the ideal choice for MSPs. The fifth area we will offer help in is with documentation. Templates are a critical component when building an MSP. We will have contracts, proposals, SOWs, collateral, and much more in the template section. You will have every document you need to start up your managed IT service business. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go to our next podcast. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast. I am your host, Fernando Leon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Gregory Morabiec. And today we have another guest. We have Robert Trimbath, from the CEO from AIO. But before we start, I want to quickly go over our agenda and how this show is structured. So we're just going to give a quick intro to Robert and AIO. What does AIO offer MSPs, right? The value. We'll ask them if they are still selling servers. How do they take nature and human error out of the equation? Is compliance an issue for your clients? How can you eliminate downtime for your clients? He's going to be answering a lot of these questions. And do clients need business continuity? We're going to address all those topics. But before we get started, I'll give a quick intro to Robert. Robert has more than 3 decades of experience in planning, managing, and developing technology for several industry verticals, specifically in the IT world. He currently serves as a CTO for 5 companies and sits on 6 board of directors as a technical advisor. And for more than 2 decades, 25 years, he has extensive knowledge in business automation, systems, and has helped many business owners scale their business profitably, especially for the SMB verticals. Now, he's the CEO at AIO, and it's obvious AIO, if you don't know, this is veteran owned and based in the US. AIO has focused on technologies that grow and scale business quickly, promote efficiency, and enable companies to do more with less. So let's get to these questions on the value that Robert and AIO bring to the MSP industry, because we got a lot of experience we're going to talk about today. So Robert, tell us, thank you. First, let me just say thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you making time, because I know you're a pretty busy guy, but tell us about the products coming down the pipe, because I know you're going to be helping MSPs deliver value to their clients, but we've discussed several products that you have ready or they're going to be ready because these guys need solutions that are going to help them deliver value to their clients.
Yeah, we actually we're going to be talking about cloud as a service products today. We are extremely big in this side. We've spent a lot of time vetting different types of companies. It's very important, especially in today's world, on the cybersecurity space, that we stay U.S. based. Or it's nice to have. We actually have international resources for this, but it's nice to be able to choose where your data center is located. And what we want to do is we're trying to bring basically a way for small MSPs, small to medium MSPs, to compete with these big providers doing Azure and AWS, where you've got to have people certified in those platforms and everything. So basically, if you're an MSP who has, VMware experience, this gives you an opportunity to basically what I call cloud your client servers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it. But it's a great product. It is white label, and you are able to manage your own clients, give them their own logins, and it's really nice. So you can choose a variety of roles to play with your client depending on your talent pool.
Nice. Yeah, no, I went through the process with you and building these and easy to scale, easy to implement. It's just and it's the best. Also, the other good thing is it's inexpensive, and I'm sure it's all quality services. But what do you say to firms that are like, hey, we only implement Azure and AWS because those are the big players. They're obviously the leaders in that cloud infrastructure environment. What makes you different? What other than price? And
Well,
go ahead.
that's kind of like saying, companies like Rackspace aren't viable because they're not AWS or
Sure, yeah.
Microsoft Azure. There's all sorts of different cloud, and that's the thing. Cloud comes in many flavors. AWS and Azure are the Cadillacs. They're the 800-pound gorillas in the room. But the problem is they're very, very expensive. I'm going to give you a very clear-cut example, and the reason it's expensive is because it's measured by use, or what we call op cycles. So the more you use it, the more you pay. There's no fixed price to it.
Yeah.
Uh, so for small businesses, small to medium businesses, having a fixed cost to your IT is important, and for you to be able to sell to a customer, that's particularly attractive. So they don't have to worry about their bill roaming every month or being higher one month than another. So you can still build it that way if you want that scalability, but most people don't need that. Most people just need they know what they have already works, but they're looking to find a way to make it more dependable, to get the environment out of the picture. And I'll talk about a couple examples with this in a minute, but there's one in particular that sticks out. We did an oil and gas company that had they have a small company that monitors operations for offshore oil rigs, and they do it through Verizon and AT&T through private VPN. And he was paying $3,500 a month in Azure for two servers.
Oof. Oh my
D-
God.
yeah, just crazy amounts of money, and he
Yeah.
had to pay, and that was what he was paying the IT company. And it turned out that they actually owned his instance, so he didn't even own his IP.
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
it was almost impossible for him to get out of that scenario. They did it in such a way it was almost impossible for him to part ways with this company, and they were just really, making it very hard. Now, the one thing I like about this product is when you get a client in the cloud, you have that stickiness because now they're dependent on you. You now have, instead of them going out and buying hardware, they're now kind of leasing it from you. It's infrastructure as a service. So you are now making revenue from that. And once they're in it, it's very sticky because it's very good. I spent a couple of years as vice president of a data center, and we consolidated the money they spend in data centers to make those services redundant, the redundant hardware, redundant air conditioning, redundant, triple redundant connectivity, independent security audits, all that kind of stuff. We couldn't even hope to spend the kind of money they spend building those solutions. Most small companies, it's millions of dollars. So when I hear people talk about, oh, I'm not sure about cloud, I feel safer with it in my office. It's like, It's actually a lot safer in the cloud than it is in your office.
Yeah,
But
no, no, no. Yeah, we've talked a lot about that because we're also cloud advocates. Because you're right, Microsoft is spending millions of dollars to protect that infrastructure.
yeah, the
So
thing
yeah,
I was going to tell you is when they got into our cloud, we his cost with the margin for the MSP is 45%, and his cost to the client was 700 a month.
okay, okay, wow,
So that's a huge difference to the client. That is pure profit in the client, and your client's back end that goes right back into his pocket. So you look
yep,
like a hero. You get good margins, and you got a lot of stickiness with the client.
yep,
So yeah, definitely a good product to use. And it isn't just cheap. Now, the thing I like about our big data centers is there's 17 total, 8 in the US, one in Canada. We have several in Israel and some various places in Europe. But you can choose your data center, build your server out the way you want it, and it is all 100% VMware based. VMware
mhm,
is who pioneered this industry. I mean, they
yeah,
pioneered virtualization way before Azure and AWS existed. So these guys have been doing it longer. So all our data centers are based in that. They're tier 3 data centers, which means they're already HIPAA compliant, they're already PCI compliant, they're triple redundant for connectivity, fully redundant for hardware and electricity and power. And basically, they're guaranteed 5.9 uptime. And that's the
mm.
best you get in the industry.
What are the difference in margins like if between AWS and Amazon? How are you guys like 10% cheaper,
Oh,
20%
I just
cheaper?
gave you an example. We were literally 25% of the price. Now that's not very typical, but we are generally can save people about half over Azure and about 30 to 35% over AWS.
And what about the features? What other features do you have other than compute? And do you have like
Well,
identity or security or networking?
at this time, no, we're not. We do have cyber. We do have integrated cybersecurity insurance. Now, here's the thing: there's some services built in. I'm going to talk about this because in some of the questions that you guys were talking about earlier, we talk about business continuity, and a lot of people don't even really know what that is. We've heard of backup and disaster recovery, which integrated into the solution are daily snapshots. So basically, if you choose to incorporate that, we daily snapshot the servers, and if anything ever happens, let's say somebody does have a ransomware environment or something that happens, somebody puts a patch on that crashes the server, you can actually just revert back to the prior day snapshot in minutes and be right back up again.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, that's huge. That's
Is that like
maximizing uptime
Zerto
for your
or is
client.
there is that your internal only or is it Zert? What is that
No,
that
it's
does that?
internal to the data
Okay.
center and it's built into
Okay.
the solution. So you don't have to go license Acronis or you don't have to go license Veeam or anything like that. It's built into the solution itself, and it's just an option to choose when you build the machine. You can say pick daily backups, and it's done. And we keep them for 30 days. Business continuity is a little different, though. Business continuity has to do with scalability. And what's really cool about our data centers is because we have so many, if you got a client that requires what we call geo redundant, where they have to have their information in two different places to meet compliance. There are some companies like medical centers. We do some work for some cancer centers in MD Anderson, and they are required to have their data in two separate locations. So we have one in Houston. We have another. Or excuse me, we have one in Dallas. We have another in Chicago.
Mm.
And the beautiful part of that is because the infrastructure in Chicago is not online all the time, it's an exact copy of what's in Dallas, but it's not in use unless Dallas fails. So as a result, the cost to the client is only 25% of the original solution to have complete duplication. And it acts as an active passive failover. So if Dallas was to ever go offline, let's just say it got nuked, it would be up in Chicago. They could flip a switch and have it up in Chicago in minutes.
Wow, wow, that's
And that's the beauty of it, and it syncs out. You can either do twice a day, daily, depending on how you want to do it. But the rough cost for that to have that kind of continuity is geo redundant is basically about 25% of the overall cost. That means if let's say you sold it's $2,000 for a month to have, your server farm in Dallas, it would only cost you 250 to have an exact copy of all those servers stored in Chicago for emergency use. Or
So
not
I got,
250, I'm sorry, 500. It'd be 25% of the value.
so Robert, thanks for sharing that. How do you take nature and human error out of the equation? Because that was one of the questions
Well,
that stood out for me here.
that's a great example. So I'm going to give you an example of a real-time situation happened to an oil and gas company. It happened here in Houston in the Park 10 area. They were on the they had the whole fourth floor, but in 2 floors below them, most buildings are multi-tenant unless you own the whole building, but most people don't. You're in a multi-tenant building, which means you are at the mercy of the dumbest person in the building. And I say it jokingly because it really does happen. They had somebody 2 floors below them stick a aluminum popcorn container into a microwave,
Oh,
caught the
oh,
kitchen on fire, and the
oh,
fire, yeah, the fire, it didn't get into their floor, but the smoke damage to the building was so extensive that they shut the building down for 4 months.
oof.
They
Wow.
could not even get into the building for 4 months. They let after they got the fire out and they allowed us to go on firemen and pull the servers out. And they actually had to give people the day off. They had to give people literally almost a week off work. They had to locate these into a data center and then recreate VPNs for everybody to have access. And then 4 months later, when they finally got access, they had to put it back. And I can tell you one of the first things that company did with us afterwards was move the entire thing into the cloud.
Yeah, yeah. I
So when
bet.
I say human error, yeah, I'm also in a state where we have hurricanes,
Yeah.
and the one of the clients I was just telling you around down in MD Anderson, they had 29 servers in. They had 17 offices, 29 servers, but every time that main office goes down, none of their 17 locations can work,
Wow.
and it
Oof.
basically comes down to losing. We added it up. It's $138,000 a day that they
That's
lose when they go
Wow.
down. And
eesh.
the whole solution for them to move to the cloud for the year was less than that 1 day of loss.
I was listening to a sales guru, and this is something that you just pointed something out that is critical during a sales process. You have to get that data. How much pain is your company going to go through in the event you do have downtime, right? It's like that $138,000 a day a number
Yep.
is going to pale in comparison to what you're going to do in order to keep them from having any type of downtime. So, yeah, having that number handy, having that information handy is going to help influence the buyer into not only admitting that, oh, I can't handle that much pain. I got to get something in place that's going to keep us protected. And that's something that I think more and more salespeople need to practice on, is getting that data. And that's a great piece of information you just shared on. You knew that number. That
It's the
number
business
is,
side. I didn't know what the
yeah,
number was, but what's funny is I made the client come up with it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
asked them the question, and that's part of doing our job as IT people is not just selling services, but we have to understand our value. And the way you make money is by understanding your value and selling your value proposition.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, you go. I give you another example, and this is something a little smaller. Let's pick a dentist.
yeah,
Let's say you got a dentist who's got maybe 10 chairs. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, every time that computer doesn't work in that particular next to that chair where he can't service a client,
yeah.
and we just went through this with a dentist recently. He loses $3,500 a day per chair.
Oof, oof, ooh, yeah.
That
That's not good.
it sells it. You sell these services. They sell themselves if you know how to sell them. And when you talk about taking money out of their pocket, they understand that. They when you start talking about how much money they lose when something doesn't work, it starts resonating.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. I agree. You need to know how to, you need that sales process that's going to expose that information. And you can't be afraid to ask it, because it's a critical question. You got to get an understanding of their business infrastructure And nobody thinks about that. Nobody will, it's because nobody likes to think about it. And I think that's something that you need to determine. You gotta plant that seed of urgency that, okay, if I don't get something in place, I could potentially be losing, like you said, $3,500 a day.
And
That's
that's
gonna
just one
hurt.
chair out of 10.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, no, exactly. And it's more about listening. A lot of people are so busy selling that they don't listen. And I can tell you that clients get turned off by that. I like to listen for the pain points. I like to hear them tell me about their business,
Yep.
what differentiates them a little bit, where they like to go, and where they plan to be. Are they planning to stay small? Do they want to grow? All those things can influence what you propose to them,
Yep.
especially for a company that's looking to scale and grow. If you can show an owner that you understand that and you can understand his vision and how to power it, you're going
Yep.
to be that guy's clients for 10, 15, 20 years. And you're going to be his, not just his provider, but his growth partner. And that's
Yep.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely some. I hope this rings this provides MSPs who are listening to this some insight into, they got to think about this approach because it's critical to your growth.
I want to
Now,
talk about, can I talk about one thing for a second? And it's about a lot of people are concerned about selling hardware. And right now, hardware is, you have to compete against Amazon, you got to compete against CDW and all these big guys, and everybody knows where to find hardware. And the margins are getting smaller and smaller. This is something that takes that out of the equation
yep,
completely and
yep,
forever. You get people out of the cycle of paying and investing in hardware. And here's the best part, you can save them literally. Let's say you got a company that's starting out and there's about 25 people. So you got a server, you got 25 desktops, you're still going to get paid to set all that up. But
yep,
the difference is the customer doesn't have to go in and buy the software and licensing, because in cloud, the licensing is included in the product as what's called SPLA licensing. So you pay for your licensing by the month at about $20 a license. So you don't have to go out and put out hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars for Windows licensing and client access licenses and things like that.
yep, yep. No. It's like I was saying earlier, we are cloud advocates. It's something that does can't be ignored, and these CEOs of MSPs, they need to learn to embrace the future, and that the cloud is the future.
What is the most common thing you guys hear from your MSPs about cloud that they're telling you their clients are saying?
Gregory, that's more Gregory question, but go ahead, Greg. I don't know if you have any input there.
They don't really. I mean, it's usually a set it and forget it kind of scenario. We don't really talk about the cloud other than it's an essential tool. It's just like a wrench now in your toolbox. It's not anything you shouldn't have or you're thinking about buying. It's not like a paint sprayer, where you're thinking about buying it. Do I really need it? Could it save me time and money? It's just like a no-brainer now. So
Have you
not
had
much
any
in.
have you had any of your MSPs come back and tell you that their clients are saying things like, "Well, I really don't trust cloud. I'm not sure if I should, I
No,
really want to
no.
keep it." You're not hearing that anymore?
No, not at all. Not at
We
all.
still
I mean,
get it
after
occa-
all those breaches, after the thousands of breaches that occurred, I mean, yeah, it's just like if you have it in your own building, someone could break in and steal it. I mean, it's not that hard. It's harder to get into the Amazon environment to be a hacker than to just kind of, use a Visa card to slip in the door of some building and steal a bunch of data. So I don't know. There's so many breaches now. It's like numbing your brain.
Well, you want to hear something interesting, because I just got back from one. I just did a big road trip. I came back from one that FBI and Homeland was at. It's still the same scenario. The biggest problem we run across is people. You got to understand, hackers like antivirus and most cyber solutions don't really, they protect endpoints, yes, but the problem is 9 out of 10 of breaches are starting with people. They're hacking
Yep.
people.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we always hear is, how do we fix people? How do we get them to train? How do we get them to start listening? because most people, especially small companies, don't listen until it's too late. Oh, if
Yeah.
they get hacked, and all of a sudden it's, oh, now we've got their attention. But it's kind of like it's kind of like an airplane. It's too late to fix it after it crashes.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to fix it when it's on pieces in the ground and on fire.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of the things that we also discussed here today, Robert, was compliance issues. Many MSPs struggle, or they're going to walk away from opportunities because compliance, a regulated industry, can be complex. I mean, there's just so many moving parts. Do you simplify that? Do you help MSPs with that type of reporting on, or making it simple, streamlining it? What is it that you do? Because that was
Well,
a. Go ahead.
we do. There's a couple of things we do. One, we have a thing we call a cyber defense portal, and it's white labelable. You can put your company name on it, and you can also resell it to your clients. They can put their name on it, so they can make the portal look just like their own, and they can manage their employees. But what it does is it enables a company. Let's say I'm I don't know. Let's just pick an auto shop. Okay, something where I've got a computer out at each of the workstations. I've got people doing quotes and estimates, but they really not technical computer people. They don't know what they're doing. They still have to email and deal with things internally. But how do we train those people? How do we make sure they understand what our guidelines are, what not to do and to do with their computers, what our use policy is. Which nowadays you have to have some kind of a computer use policy for a company. And if they don't have it, you need to help them create one, because that is a great way for a company to get in trouble. We saw a client once actually get sued. They actually got sued because somebody's kid, and it was by a family of a victim who actually was one of their employees was looking at child porn at
Oh,
the business,
oh,
and they were
oh.
and the FBI traced it back to the business, and the business did not have a computer use policy that freed them up from liability from the people. There is general use policies now, computer use policies that are part of your manual that basically say this is our condoned use of the computer. Anything like this is outside and outside of that parameter and is grounds for dismissal and basically unacceptable. When you have that, it basically exempts the company from liability for those kind of things. It puts it
Yeah.
clearly back on the employee.
Yeah.
Really, really huge. So we have a portal that manages those agreements with the employees. It actually manages the cyber training with the employees and provides professionally created content for both phishing training and cybersecurity training that's on demand video. And it keeps track of their testing scores. It keeps track of whether they completed or not. And in combination of everything being done, it even does simulated phishing to the base to make
Mm.
sure that they're learning, that not only that they took the training and learned something from it, but it's kind of like on the job training. So you're actively pretending to be a fisher. And when you catch them doing something they're not supposed to, instead of going to a hacker site, they actually go to a site that teaches them, hey, you did something wrong. This is what you did wrong, and this is what you should do next time.
Mm.
And it teaches them in real time. So all that's included in our program. And we even do dark web monitoring. We do risk penetration testing. Those are all things that are kind of on demand kind of things. But yeah, we offer a full gamut of that.
Great, great. Now, how can you explain how you're helping MSPs eliminate downtime for their clients?
We actually came up with a service we call Cloud Your Server, and it's meant for these small businesses. How many of you guys have been to, you know, I laugh at this because I remember times, it's been a while now, but I remember coming into clients and my server's over here, and they open up a room and it's like a sauna. This heat wave comes out, and the server's 8 years old and it's dusty, and it's like literally 100 degrees in that room, and you're thinking, how in the hell is that thing still running? Um, a lot of people are like this still. They don't realize that those things are counterproductive to the environment. So how we do that is this Cloud Your Server program. We can actually take an existing server, any existing server. It doesn't matter if it's Linux, Windows. we can actually migrate it as it is in a day into the cloud. And all you have to do at that point is just create a link between the office and that, and no longer have to buy server hardware. We can take it exactly as it's configured and move it into the cloud, and with the exact same resources, link it in, and you're now in a HIPAA compliant, guaranteed 99,999 uptime, period, from that point on. And there's no contracts. It's basically bill as you go. And what's really cool is as the business grows, maybe you got a small server right now and you're using maybe 500 gigs of space, but let's say, oh man, we're out of space. Normally you'd have to go buy more hard drives and configure it and put it in. Well, you can just go to your panel as the provider. You just go to your panel and dial it up. Say, okay, I need a terabyte now. And it'll show you exactly what your cost difference is, so you can know what to charge your customer, and you can put it live at the click of a button.
So easy to scale and cost effective.
Yep. RAM, CPUs, additional drive space, or even a whole additional separate drives. And it's all powered by and it's all 100% SSD environment. It's not even traditional hard drives. Every one of our solutions is 100% SSD.
Very nice.
Yep. Nice. So that's how you reduce that downtime. Get them out of that server in the closet or that 5-year-old server that needs to be upgraded. Save them the hardware and the licensing and just migrate it as it sits now. Just migrate that existing instance up, create that VPN link, and you just save the customer thousands, and you got them locked into you now.
Yep. Nope. I see that. Very nice. Very nice. Now, we did touch on business continuity. I think that we don't need to beat that horse to death, but I know it's critical. Is this something? So you did mention you guarantee 5 nines, which is an impressive number because we only see 3 or 4 nines of organizations guaranteeing. So is this? I believe that every organization needs to. Well, let me ask you this, because I like to think outside the box. If they have an on-prem environment, does it make sense to duplicate that environment in the cloud? So they have that.
That's where business continuity. That's another factor of it, and we can touch on that. So I can tell you right now, with a couple of our clients, they wanted to keep some Active Directory local for logins in case they lost connectivity, so they could still log in and do some things. And so we still have some Active Directory servers on-prem for that purpose, just to do print serving and some local service things. Like they needed to have it in order to run electronic security for doors and things like that for on-prem security. So you will run across those instances, and for in the medical field especially, they have imaging, which is very large, like 3D panoramic things for scanners that do for like kidneys, for cancer, for even dentists have 3D scanners that they use, and the files are very large. So sometimes that's not you're going to find some things that aren't cloud friendly in that way. But so having it replicated is great, because if something does happen locally, then you could just, let's say your building caught on fire. If everything burned to the ground and you have it replicated to the cloud, then all you got to do is go home and work from home. Or hotel or whatever it is. You're hurricane proof now. You're fireproof. You don't have to worry about bringing backups offsite because it's replicating in real time to the cloud. So that kind of business continuity is great. But another factor to think about in this is connectivity, and a lot of people don't think about this. Every business right now is completely dependent on being online. So we are seeing more people totally miss this on the MSP, and this is an opportunity to make money again for the MSP. A lot of MSPs have partnerships with their local providers like Comcast, Xfinity, Spectrum. If you don't, you should have one. And what you do with that is basically you make sure that you're working with one of their wholesale people, and if you refer them business, you can build income from that. You can build mailbox money, I like to call it. And it's not a lot, but I can tell you right now that over time, we've been doing that for 15 years, and we get probably $2,000 to $3,000 a month in mailbox money just off contracts we've formed over those years.
Oh wow!
And it's sometimes it's $25 there, $100 here, and it just adds up. And it's as long as they keep those contracts, you get paid. So it just builds up recurring revenue.
Yeah, Gregory and I just did a show on that because Houston was hit hard by some
Well,
some
that's where I live.
hurricanes. Yeah.
I'm talking to you from Houston. You're talking about a barrel.
Yeah, so you understand that you gotta have. Gregory was saying, look, yeah, internet will go out, but if you have a satellite set up, if you have some type of, you need an internet connection.
You're talking about redundant internet connections.
Yeah.
And everybody should have either one or two products, especially if you rely on, and even now we rely on VoIP phone systems which use the internet. So it's even more important than ever to have a redundant connection. So whenever we advise clients to use firewalls that have dual WAN, they have an active passive WAN solution. There's a lot of products out there that have it from Netgear, SonicWall, WatchGuard, even I'm trying to remember the name of it, Ubiquify. We do a lot with Ubiquify, and I can tell you that those solutions are great. The Dream Machines, they've got dual WAN set up into them. They're manageable from remote and monitored from their main portal, so we can see whenever connectivity is lost.
But yeah, they're Ubiquity.
Yeah, Ubiquity. That's it. That's what I was thinking of.
I didn't want you to keep saying that mistake.
I'm being an old man today.
It's all right. It's all right.
Sometimes I forget I'm an old man. I just love what I do. So, but you do having those active passive failovers. Another product is SD-WAN, and SD-WAN is particularly important. It's a little bit different than active passive because with a firewall that has active passive, each network you want to have a provider from two different networks either way. So in other words, you're going to do one connection, maybe your primary with AT&T, and then your backup doesn't have to be as fast, but it still needs to be from a completely different provider like Xfinity or T-Mobile or whoever it is. But you want two completely different networks. That way, if one fails, it will automatically fail over to the second one, and you'll still have connectivity and voice and everything else. But with SD-WAN, it's a little different. SD-WAN, actually, the SD-WAN provider becomes your internet provider, and they take your existing contracts and form it into a single IP address, regardless of what provider it comes through. So instead of having, because if you're doing it yourself with like an active passive failover on a firewall, you've got one IP for one provider and one IP for another. So if you're VPNing in and your main location goes down, that one's no longer active. So what SD-WAN does is it gives you one IP that addresses both networks. So it doesn't matter which one's up, and it load balances between the two, and it guarantees throughput. So you can say, okay, I've got a gig of SD-WAN and I want 200 megs of that to be dedicated to VPN traffic or to voice or to whatever you want it to be. But they can allocate pieces of bandwidth as high priority for certain protocols, which is really nice.
Very cool. Greg,
and that's part of that business continuity thing, because it isn't just about the server. You got to have a connection to the server that stays up as well.
Well, Robert, we're reaching the end here, and I appreciate you making time for us. But Greg, did you have any last questions before I close this out?
That's very informative. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to come on a show and talk about it, and I'm happy to do it again.
All right. Well, Robert, I appreciate you making time again, and thank you to everybody who's listened. And don't forget to sign up to be a member on the MSP Corner. Please share a link with the CEO who might find this information beneficial. We're going to be providing you guys with a landing page for Robert's site soon, so stay tuned. And to everybody, have a great day.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to sign up to be a member on www.mspcorner.com. Please share our link with a CEO who will find our information beneficial to their business. Have an awesome day.